Hey there, you creative visionaries. I am Thembi Buthelezi, Chief Visionary Officer at Future Gen Leaders and the founder of the Future Gen Leaders Foundation. And this is an impromptu video, like totally out of the blue. But I really needed to do this video. I just finished watching the Netflix documentary, Fyre Festival. I think everybody should go watch that documentary. I honestly believe that every single millennial who is in business, who is creative, who is trying to do something good in the world through a socially conscious business should go watch that documentary. I really think it's so important as young people to go and watch that documentary. That documentary is so profound because I just came out of an experience like that, not as hectic and sort of $27 million, but working with a sociopath. And actually understanding that there are people that are sick in this world. You know, I mean, I am totally all about energy and all about manifesting and all about, you know, you have to give people a chance. People are good. People have wounds, childhood wounds that you don't understand. But, you know, we're all God's children. You really need to give people a chance. People can be good. But after watching that documentary, I was like, you know what? I need to do an impromptu video about this. So I just came out of an experience similar to Fyre Festival. Yes, mine wasn't at the magnitude of $27 million and SEC fraud and, you know, securities fraud, but I know that it could have gotten there because the people that I had in my life and in my business were just as sociopathic. They were like totally sociopathic. And I mean, we can all be victims about why people do what they do to us. Like, they're hurting me, why would they do this to me? But after watching Fyre Festival, I thought, you know, I just came out of an experience similar to that. How do we heal? How do you gain the trust in humanity? How do you gain trust in people after you've been through an experience like that? So if you haven't watched the documentary, I think it's so important for any millennial or any Gen Z to go and watch that documentary. Even a baby boomer, even like an honest Gen X, go and watch that documentary. It is so eye-opening because now when I was sitting and watching this documentary, I was like, oh my God, that was me. That was like totally me. I could have ended up with the FBI coming to my house, knocking on my door and going bong, bong, bong. So my experience was I had these friends for 7 years. So I first met this woman who was, you know, she seemed kind of normal. She seemed like a normal human being. She was a total sociopath. She was like total sociopathic. She was a covert narcissist / sociopath. And then she started dating this guy who was an overt narcissist but also a sociopath. These two were like meant for each other. They were total sociopaths. And you know, when you're with people who are sociopathic or narcissists, there's a grooming period to their narcissistic sociopathic behaviors, right? I've been studying this now for a long time. I said, I gotta study this stuff. I'm from Africa. I don't understand this stuff. Like, sociopathic behavior in Africa is like different from American sociopathic behavior. So anyway, so these two, there's a grooming process to all of this, right? So they groom you. They kind of like befriend you. This woman befriended me. She came to my house when I was living in Shanghai. And I don't know what went cuckoo. I think she was always cuckoo, but something like clicked in her brain. She's like, oh, this girl's got money. This girl's like living in a fancy apartment. She's a trader. So her wheels started turning. And then she invited me. So I came over back to the US from Shanghai, China to the US, and she invited me over to California to celebrate my birthday. And I was with her boyfriend at the time, and it was such an incredible grooming period. Now that I look back, I'm like, that was good. It wasn't like I couldn't afford to take myself out to $500 dinners. I used to do that all the time. But just having somebody else do that was like, wow, these people care about me. Okay, sociopaths, they try to understand what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like, and they try and fit themselves into that mold of providing what it is that you want, right? Oh my God. So I stayed friends with them. Kind of like 3 years into the relationship, they had a child. They were like, Tembi, you'd be the best godmother for my child. I was like, nobody's ever asked me to be a godmother of a child. This is so incredible. I mean, maybe I'm really a good person, So we went to Catholic church and it was all of that stuff. So their grooming process for me was like 4 or 5 years. And then they lost a lot of money through their own, they lost a lot of money on their own through their own narcissistic, crazy behaviors. So I remember distinctly when I was with them in London, and I had a speaking engagement at the London Investors show, where they came with me to London, and I think at that point they saw glory. I don't know what they saw, but you can never understand the mind of a sociopath, right? You truly can never understand the mind of a sociopath. So we were in London together, and I was doing the speaking engagement to these London investors, tons of money. And they were like, oh, money. Wherever she goes, there's money. If we can just like leech onto her and ride her coattail, we will be able to recoup this money that we had lost through their art deals, wherever they were doing. I mean, they thought they were could collect rare coins and rare art, which was like, who are you people? You've never studied art. You know nothing about the arts. You're just like peasants. Anyway, so 2 years ago, they asked me if they could join my company. But the guy was the master manipulator in this whole thing. So he asks this friend of mine, this woman was my best friend for 7 years, asks her, hey, go and latch on to Tembi so that we can then start this foundation under her name so that we can start collecting money. It was like 6 weeks into this woman asking to join my company, where all of a sudden they have this foundation. It's like, ta-da! Foundation. She sends me this long email how it's always been her dream job to run a foundation, and they've got executives that worked at Tom's that were going to run this foundation, and they were going to help them with money. And I was like, whoa. What happened? All of this, I don't understand. But the guy was the master manipulator. Apparently this guy was going through a midlife crisis and he couldn't find himself. So all of a sudden he thought he could empower women. I was like, honey, this guy is not empowering women. This guy is a sociopath. He's not empowering women. You are a charity case yourself. You need to get away from this abusive sociopath. I didn't understand. I didn't realize that the two of them were sociopaths. So they kind of used each other and bounced off each other with their sociopathic tendencies. I am telling you, they had opened up bank accounts in my name in this foundation that they had created. It was such a nightmare. For 18 months of my life, I used to wake up and just sit in my meditation space and pray. That's all I used to do. I was so messed up in the head. I was fucked up in the head, okay? I'll say it on YouTube. I was fucked up in the head. I said I trusted these people for 7 years, thinking that they were friends, thinking that I could bring them into business, thinking that I could travel with these people, thinking that, you know, I was the God. They used their child for money. I said, I've never met such dysfunctional, sociopathic people in my life. I'm from Africa. I grew up really poor. I love people at the core. I don't know if I would actually go out and hurt somebody. That's just not my nature. That's just not who I am. I never met anybody like this. And so, okay, why am I telling you the story? Because while I was watching that documentary, I saw that most of the people that had worked for the guy that was co-creator of this Fyre Festival were in deep pain. I was in that deep pain for 18 months. I literally used to just get up and just do yoga and sit at my meditation space and light a candle and cry.